Now into episode 7, and this is going to be an extremely interesting episode. The Devolution of Man. It's really ironic that alleged science comes up with this idea of evolution when in fact man is devolving and the signs are everywhere. The screen that you're looking at is in Hebrew and Greek and English with lexicons. Now I presume you would know that back in the 1400s BC, when Moses wrote Genesis, people just memorized it. So as we saw at the end of episode 6, where you had 83 hayyim verses in the Old Testament, people knew that. They had it in their memory. There are lots of times in the Old Testament where the Old Testament was read to the people, and then they go home. They remembered it. I'd like to see how many of us could do that today. Secondly, they were able to cross-reference. For example, all those hayyim verses, a good 20 or 30 of them employ wordplay. And the wordplay is on high, you're not really alive unless you know God. So having life, spiritual life and soul life is the way to go. That means you're really alive. They would know that. I mean, the words are used the way they're used because they communicate to an audience. You're going to see that here also. When keywords are used, it's because the audience will know those are keywords and they'll know to tie them. The Lord talks that way all the time in the Gospels. So when we're going to look at this, we're going to see the devolution of man due to spiritual death that passes on into the biology. That's what the old sin nature is. It's biological. That's in Romans 5:12. And all the urges that we have to sin are essentially biological, and then when our volition agrees to them, we basically program our DNA to devolve further, and at some point the biology will be too degraded for another soul to be made at birth. The fetal material will be too degraded, and that's when history will end. So we're all under this sword of Damocles writ large. And it all starts here in Genesis 2:17. Here we are, Genesis 2:17. That's the pronunciation that they teach you in seminary. Here's the BHS text. You can see that in the lower left window. And highlighted in yellow is moth, tamuth. This is the two words for death. They are always mistranslated, and as always, whenever there's a strategic mistranslation, lots of false doctrine follows. The false doctrine in question here is the nature of spiritual death. Okay, let's look at this first one, moth. Alright? If you look in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see that that's a cal infinitive absolute. Whoops. I need to turn that on. Wait a minute. Cal infinitive absolute of to die or to kill. Kill, it's usually in the hiphil. And have one executed, that's usually in the nifel stem. Here we're looking at the cal stem, so it means to die. Cal stem is the stem of reality. Nifel is the passive stem. Hiphil is a causative stem, somebody causing an action. And then there are other variations like the PL where it's intensive, PUL where it's intensive passive. You can look all this stuff up in a basic Hebrew grammar book. So I'm not going to go through all that. But here we're looking at an idiom in Hebrew that, again, like hayyim, is talking about two deaths. And it's also done sometimes as an idiom of intensification. But since the PL stem is already used for intensification. The translators should have been alerted here, especially considering how 2 deaths are talked about in the New Testament. But they weren't. Their brains were off, okay? You know, I mean, it's a very rough job being a translator. I've tried retranslating Isaiah 53 for years, and I still am not satisfied with the translation I've come up with. Okay, but here we're going to just look at this because it's really important to get this. Dying, this is a first death. There are 2 of them. Okay, it's a cal infinitive absolute as we just saw. And then here is the second use of the same verb, and you'll notice lower left-hand corner, blue, it's in the cal imperfect. Now remember, the cal imperfect is often used for a prophetic statement, something that will begin and is not yet contemplated as terminating itself at the time that it's spoken. So we're looking at a cal imperfect, you will die. I mean, the right way to translate it is dying, you will die. Now we know for sure that that's the right way to translate it because, first of all, Young's literal translation, which is of the Hebrew, recognizes it. You see that? It's in blue. That's highlighted as Young's literal translation, and that's of the Hebrew. Dying, you will die. That's how my pastor translates it too. But there's another way we know, which, you know, for all of us who, oh, well, that's just your opinion. Okay, well, how about the guys who are closer to it? Thanatoi, apothaneste. All right? Same expression in the Greek translated by Jews. In 273 BC, these are the guys who wrote this, who translated the Hebrew into the Septuagint. The Septuagint was used by the Lord, the apostles, and all the writers of the New Testament. It's frequently quoted from. It is not always correct, just like no single manuscript is always correct. But we've got many thousands of manuscripts, and that's how we know when there's a mistake. Okay, well, look here. Thanatos, in particular, is used for spiritual death in the New Testament. Okay, thanatoi, it's in the dative. Okay, and then apothaneste. All right? Indicative future middle. You can look just below the word and see it. I've highlighted it now. That's apothanesko. Okay, technically, apothanesko and its cognate thanatos. Alright? Apo means from. This little word here, apo. It means from the source of. Okay? In an old teaching of Greek, they would call it ablative of source. There's no actual ablative in Greek, but they were likening it to the Latin use. Okay, apo means from a source, caused by something at the source. Okay, thanesko and thanatos are talking about the sole function of death. See, you got 2 kinds of life, and this was always known. You got a soul life and you got a body life. In Greek, they have 2 different words for each kind of death. You got nekros for dead body, and you got thanatos for dead soul. Dead in the sense of no longer in this body. No longer in the body, separating from the body. The act of expiring, the soul expiring. All right, and apothanesko is talking about that kind of death, a soul death. All right? Now, how do I want to put this? Because of this, the soul sinning, all right, thanatos, the soul action is a kind of death away from God. Therefore, the soul will leave the body. That's apothanesko. That's specifically what it's talking about. The soul leaving the body. Alright? So there is a distinction in the Greek that they're picking up on from the Hebrew, that the Hebrew is actually making. This first moth, all right, is spiritual death. That's represented here by thanatos. If I can get the mouse to work. Oh, it doesn't want to work. Okay. That's what won't work. Okay, pretend like there we go. That's represented here by thanatos. The second imperfect, cal imperfect, of tamuth. You say that the tet there with a little th in it, kind of like the modern Greek th. Very little th, very little breath. Okay, apothenesko is represented by tamuth specifically. All right, are you clear on that? Agree, disagree, but this is really important in what follows. Now, in the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see 13 verses, 13 times, where this same expression here in red on the left is used. That means every single time you see this in the same wording, like right, well, of course, it's Genesis 2:17. Genesis 27 is not showing up yet. Oh, the screen's going bad on me too. Okay. When you see this expression elsewhere in the Bible, it's referring to the initial punishment indirectly. Unfortunately, they translated surely die because they're treating the doubling of the verb as an intensification. All right? So they miss the distinction that God makes and that the LXX makes and some of the translators make, that it's two deaths. All right? When Samuel 1:44 and 14:44 is the next verse. All right? Now, I mean, sometimes, like I said before, they are using it idiomatically. And the idiomatically, it's got something of the surely die concept, but it's never divorced from the initial meaning. The initial meaning, remember, in Genesis 2:17, I mean, you can look this up in English yourself for the context. God is giving a warning. If you do this bad thing, I'm cutting you off. You'll have no relationship with me. So that's what's going on in these verses too, is that initial, even if one person, like in Genesis 27, all right, and in 1 Samuel 14:14, those are people talking to people. All right? See? They are invoking the idea of judgment and cutoff that was the command in Genesis 2:17. It is never outside the idea. Okay? So we have 1 Samuel 22:16. All right? See? Each one of these is a judgment, because the initial one was a judgment. Motamot. All right? There you go. Motamot. And that was Shimei. See, why didn't I'm going to get off topic if I talk about that. David was dead 3 years at the time that verse happens. The context tells you that clearly, so he didn't die when he was age 70. Okay. Alright. See, there's more about Shimei in context. This is 3 years after David's death. Okay. 2 Kings 1:4. See how there's always this judgment. And they're mixing up with it, and it's, again, understandable. The translators, again, are mixing up an idiom with a literal explanation of two deaths, spiritual and finally physical. Okay, here's 2 Kings 1:6. See, they're all judgment-oriented. These are all judgments being pronounced. All right, let's leave it there. Okay, see? 2 Kings 1:16, Now we're in Jeremiah 26:8. And Ezekiel 3:18. All of them are judgments. Again, another judgment, Ezekiel 33:8. And then again, Ezekiel 33:14. Okay? So, the idea is, again, wordplay. The other thing these verses all have in common is they really are still talking about two deaths. The initial two deaths, bing, bing, bing. This one is this back to Genesis 2:17. That's a spiritual death, loss of connection with God, loss of human spirit, so we can't have a relationship with God or understand Him. And then this is referring to physical death, because the physical life depended on, and you're going to need that because I'm going to get into Genesis 3:22. The physical life depended on the spiritual life. Oh, gone now. Okay, but in each of these other cases, the duplication has a different meaning. Look, moth, your soul is going to leave your body, and therefore, tamuth, your body dies. See the word play? Okay, this is episode 7 continued. I got to try to keep it in 10-minute increments. Now, you see before you, in English, the last half of Genesis 2 starting at verse 16 and Genesis 3, because there's more on moth, tamuth to go over. It's very, very important. The Bible story is about the devolution of man. Man becoming progressively animalistic. Not what he was intended to be. Man's initial life was intended to be in fellowship with God. As a result of Adam's sin, that fellowship was broken. That's why we went through hayyim, multiple lives. In this case, it's really soul, spirit, soul, and then body. And therefore multiple deaths. And that moth tamuth reference multiple deaths. The soul dying from God. I mean, the soul lives forever, but death is a state of separation, essentially. So the soul separates from the body, that we call physical death. But it's really two kinds of death. It's a death of the soul to the body, and it's a death of the body itself. When the connection to God was severed by Adam's sin, he died spiritually. And that's why we saw in Genesis 2:17, right here, except that it's mistranslated here. All right, now this is really important, in the day that you eat from it. And then this should be translated, dying you will die. Okay, we saw that in the Young's literal translation. Wait a minute. See? This is the literal Hebrew, and this is the way it really should have been translated. I mean, well, Young's literal translation was 100 years ago. They used dying in those days. Okay. So, the rest of this is, after some time Adam had been alive again. They don't say how long, the woman is made. So there's another anti-evolutionary argument. There were no people to be made because there were no births, no human births. Okay? The other thing is that if you look here in 20, Adam gave names to all the cat. He's a taxonomist, not a hunter-gatherer. And he's not eating meat either. Okay? He's eating from trees. Tree. See? Look. Cause to grow every tree that's pleasing and good for food. And the tree of life. See, as long as Adam ate from those trees, actually especially this one, tree of life, because that's what kept him going, there was no need to number his days because there was no death. No death. Okay? But in 2:17, the day in which you eat, dying you will die. Dying spiritually, you will eventually die physically. And everybody knew that, as we saw that there were 13 verses where they were using it the same way. The day that the soul separates from the body, that's a kind of death for the soul, and that the soul experiences, and then the death the body experiences is, necrotic death. They even use that term in English today. Okay, I need to skip down here to this. Okay. The same expression is going to be used here. But here, Satan is using it to tweak the woman for her bad use. She twists Scripture. Okay, this is Genesis 3:3. Satan's tempting the woman to, well, let me start here. He's being cute. He says, you can't eat from any tree of the garden? As if God banned all the trees. We just saw he didn't. Okay? And then the woman repeats what she learned in Genesis 2:17. That we call it Genesis 2:17. She just learned it as a command. Okay, watch how she says it. You shall not eat or touch it. Or touch it. That word isn't there. Where is or touch it in 2:17? The day that you eat from it. But she's adding or touch it. See, we've been adding to Scripture ever since. So she's already negative. Alright, now watch this. This is so cool. Genesis 3:4. Do you remember? Let me show you. 2:17 is the original verse. Watch. Now this is Satan talking this time. Alright? Here we got the original 2:17. See this? Thanatoi apotheneste. Same words. Thanatoi apotheneste. That's Satan talking. He's quoting what was really said. I mean, this is translated, but it's the same words. Now this word here, oo, is from ook. And when it's in front of a vowel, you leave out the K. I'm in front of a theta. Alright? So he's denying, but he's still using the exact words. Alright? Because here they are. This is lo in the Hebrew. That's equivalent to ook right here. Lo. No, not true. Negative. Okay? Here's mut. And here's mut. Remember? Where is it? Where is it? There it is. Mut. Both muts. Okay? Tamuth. Now, that ending there, tamutika, tik, tamutun, rather. I'm sorry. I always mix up the K's and the N's. Okay? That's just the feminine ending. Wait a minute. Let me move that down so you can see it. Oops. I'm sorry. Wrong. Okay? Wait a minute. That's not right. Well, anyway, it's the same idea. It's the cal imperfect. All right. They don't always get everything right here. All right, the cal infinitive is used in both places, Genesis 2:17 and here in 3:4, and then tamuth un is used there. All right. Satan's thinking ahead. Okay, so it's an emphatic denial, but notice he's not adding the word touch. Okay, she was adding the word touch, right? She's adding the word touch, but he doesn't. He's quoting it correctly, adding the different suffix because he's talking to her. And, of course, putting a low in front of it. So she's a sucker for that. She didn't listen the first time. All right. So, she takes it. She gives it to him. Yeah, because he's got a Hobson's choice. Lose God or lose her. No contest. All right? I love this. And then the eyes of both of them were open. This is their idea of them being smart. Oh, we're so wise now. This is really important to get this. All right, in Genesis 3:7. Oh, our eyes are open. And they knew that they were naked. They knew that they were naked before. See this? The man and the woman were both naked and were not ashamed. Oh, but now it's a shame to be naked. Yeah, Operation Fig Leaves, baby. And they sewed fig leaves over their genitals. These loin coverings is the correct translation here. It was just over their genitals. Oh, well, having sex is bad now. Being naked is bad now. What for? Duh. Okay, and now all of a sudden they hide themselves. Yeah, see, sewing fig leaves and hiding yourselves go together. This works, and this is hiding. Now, how did God introduce chapter 2? He introduced chapter 2 by saying, no shrub of the field was yet in the earth, no plant of the field, because there was no man to cultivate the ground. In other words, everything just grew the way he told it to, or grew naturally. No works, no works, no man to cultivate the ground, no Cains. Okay, now there's going to be plenty of works. They sow fig leaves. First act of the fallen nature. Works. Okay? Oh, being naked is bad. Works. See? Religiosity. The original sin is religiosity. Alright? Why? For God knows that the day you eat of it, your eyes will be open, and you will be, this is really important because he's going to use this in 22, you will be like God, knowing good and evil. You will be as good as God. That's a religious temptation. They knew they were naked. Ooh, gotta cover that up, make ourselves feel good about ourselves. Ooh, sow fig leaves, gotta make ourselves feel good about ourselves. Christianity is so full of this kind of garbage, it's not funny. Sin nature, baby, right staring you in the face. And what do? They hide themselves when the real Lord God comes walking in. Genesis 3:9. Then the Lord God said to the man. Now this is mistranslated. In the English it says, where are you? But it means, why are you where you are? Oh, please don't go. Please, please, please don't break on me now. Okay? Okay, this is why are you where you are. It's not just where. This is to Adam, lo to him, meaning to him, and said, and God in the context, okay, to Adam, he said, okay, to him, why are you where you are? You're hiding. Why are you there? Okay, and then in Genesis 3:11, I got to show this. I know it's slightly off topic, but it's showing the devolution process. Okay? See this? Who told? That's a mistranslation. Alright, where is it? Not get. Okay, wait a minute. It's hard to read the screen sometimes. Again. There we go. This means to denounce. It doesn't mean to tell. It means to denounce. My pastor spent a lot of time on this. So, who denounced you? Me means who. Who denounced you? Alright? Who was it who denounced? Is really the best way to translate it, because this has to do with the denouncer. Me is the person doing this action, the denouncing. Alright? And like to you. Who denounced to you? Look at how crappy that is. Who told you that you were naked? As if God was hiding knowledge. You see the play on words there? Satan and company help with this translation, no doubt about it. Because they just finished talking about, all right, not ashamed from being naked. They just finished talking about withholding knowledge. So some demon had a real field day with this, getting people to translate it as told. And everybody translates it that way. Who's declared, who told you, who told you. See, everybody just copies everybody else. They don't look at the Hebrew. Okay? Who told you? And so God gets denounced in the process as an ogre who hides information, just like Satan said to the woman. Who told you? Yeah, well, sorry. It means denounce, to tell against. It's not just make known. All right? All right, so there begins the devolution. Man feeling shamed about being naked, even though he had no shame before and he had no works, and he didn't hide himself. So there's the devolution beginning. Now, here we get to the crux of it. It should be clear that in perfection there is no death. All right? But now sin has entered, and therefore death due to sin, and we saw that in Romans 5:11, 5:12. Okay. Romans 5:12. Okay? Just as through one man entered and death through sin, which means there was no death before that. Zero. All right? So since no death before that, now if you are going to die, that means from the moment of the sin to the day you die are all the days of your life. That's Genesis 3:14. Okay, all the days of your life means that your days are numbered. They are not infinite anymore. They are not, it's not a question of, oh, today is always today. There's a future death coming. All the days of your life. Now, this particular pronouncement is on, the serpent allegedly, but Satan was empowering the serpent, so he's really talking to Satan. Everybody knew that. She knew that she was talking to Satan. He was trying to be cute, using this cute serpent that was in those days really was cute. All right? So all the days of your life means all the days that Satan's going to be allowed to play his game. All right? Because he's talking to Satan. Satan's days are numbered too. All right? There's going to come a judgment, an end. And then here's the clever childbirth. And Paul makes good use of that in 2 Timothy, I think it's 2:15. The woman will be delivered through delivery. Yeah, because you're going to bear a Savior, honey. Okay. All right, but here's the one I want to focus on right here. Genesis 3:17. This is what Bishop Usher missed. See? All the days of your life. All the days of your life. There is an ending now. There wasn't one before. So there wasn't any statement of all the days of your life, because the life was never going to end. Now it will. Now his days are numbered. Until there's a fall, there's no need for kids. Until there's a fall, there's nothing. I mean, it's just the same old every day. Okay, but now we got an end point. Now we got a numbering. Okay, now look at this. Oh, this is so precious. I love this. Remember what Satan said back up here. Okay? For God knows the day you eat, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Keep that verse in mind. That's 3:5. Okay? Now let's look down to 3:22. This is the other thing Bishop Usher missed, and everybody else in Christendom, except for my pastor and a few others. I don't understand why so few, but I guess it, Oh, now the mouse is stuck. Okay. Look at this. Is this clever or what? It's mistranslated, of course. Behold, the man will become like one of us, knowing good and evil. You remember that from 3:5. All right? This is where he's going to get kicked out of the garden because his days are now numbered. Okay, but this is all screwed up, this part. All right, let's look at what it actually says. All right? And said. You've seen Amar now several times. You should recognize it. Yehovah. Here's Yehovah. God. Elohim. You've seen that before. Him. This means look. It's an expression like, look here. By the way, alert. I'm making a pronouncement. Hine is in Isaiah 52:13. Hin. Look here. Sharpen up. Hadam. Okay. Haya. Hayi. Haya. Ha. I always do this wrong. Ha. Ye. Haya. That's cute. Ha'adam. Hayeh. Kachad. Echad. Ka'echad. Like. Okay, now that part, like is okay. Alright, I'll show you what's the problem. Okay? Mimenu. Okay? It's not, he's not really saying, he's saying like, alright. Oh, mouse is frozen. Oh, okay. Mouse is freezing up here. Okay. Ka echad. Okay. But mimenu, how do I want to put this? He thinks he's born. It's really, I don't even know how to really see this. This is the preposition min again. Remember I said it's a birthing preposition? Okay, see at the bottom? Min, out from, more than. See? Birthing preposition. So, he's saying, so man thinks, okay, here we go. So, oh, Adam is really sarcastic. Oh, I can't get the mouse to work. Oh, the man has become, this is in his own mind, like one of us. Okay, but it's really not, has become as one of us. I mean, on our level, as God. Because that was what Satan's temptation was in Genesis 3:5. Alright? Born from us. Separated from us. Remember, min is a birthing preposition. Separated from. Away from. Out of. Okay? More than. Separation. So he's saying, oh, that Adam has become as good as, really, as good as we are, one of the same essence as us, but apart from. The min there is apart from us, away from us, separated from us, on his own. So this numbering of days is like treating Adam, I hope I'm getting this across. Okay, Adam, you're born just as good as God now. You are now going to be treated as if you were born. Your days are numbered, honey. And from now on is the first day for you. This is where the dating begins in Genesis 5. And that's where we're going to have to pick up in the next lesson.